For the past decade, Lotus has been building the ultimate driving machines. Cars like this Exige are fabulously good, but they're also a bit, well, brutal. These are a track day toy, a Saturday afternoon indulgence, not a car for a sojourn to the Côte d'Azur. But all that might be about to change. Meet the most sensible Lotus for a generation. Meet the Evora. This is an everyday Lotus, a mid-engine four-seater with room in the boot for golf clubs. It's a rival to Porsche's Cayman, and with prices from 49 grand, it's even more expensive. This is ambitious. The Evora wasn't penned in some exotic Italian design house in Tuscany. It was styled in Lotus's own studios in Norfolk. The idea was to take the Elise and inject a bit of sophistication. To be honest, when it was first unveiled at the London Motor Show last year, I wasn't convinced. It looked a bit fussy and ungainly under the harsh studio lights, but out here in the real world, it looks a lot better. You really get a sense of how small it is and how the body's been shrink-wrapped around the mechanicals. It might not be the most elegant car in the world, but it's certainly got presence. Now here's the spotty bit. This Lotus is the world's only mid-engine 2+2 with a 3.5 litre Toyota Source V6 sitting just behind the rear passenger's bottom. The chassis is made from high-tech extruded aluminium and it's almost 3 times as stiff as an Elise Roadster. And when you're tuning suspension, that makes a huge difference. The way this car goes down the road is nothing short of astonishing. For such a focused car, the ride is extraordinarily good. And the steering, well, that's the best known to man. Lotus builds its steering wheels out of magnesium because they don't want a heavy rim to spoil the exquisite, intimate feel, and it's that kind of attention to detail, that kind of thought that makes all the difference. The brakes are tremendous, the gearbox is quick, positive and super slick. Doesn't sound too bad either. The harder you try, the better it gets, and when you're really on it, it has a poise, a precision and a fluency that even a Porsche can't match. But a bit of bad news. This Evora isn't actually all that quick. In today's world, 276 brake horsepower is no more than adequate. A Porsche Cayman S has 320 and it weighs less. But you've never bought a Lotus for its straight line, willy waving thrust. This car is fast enough. You buy a Lotus for the experience, and that's the good news. This is one of the launch editions and it costs almost £60,000, and for that you expect quite a bit. These Recaro seats are exceptionally comfortable. What looks like leather is leather, and I love these aluminium heater controls. You also get what Lotus would call luxury features, like this reversing camera and, for the first time on a Lotus, cruise control, which some might call sacrilege. It's also impossible to ignore some of the detail flaws. When you sat behind the wheel, you can't see any of these switches, and for all that money, you might expect a damp glove box. You never quite escape the feeling that this car's built by blokes called Dave in Norfolk and not precise German robots called Helmut. And of course this is a four-seater, well, sort of, which is something Porsche can't claim. Although it's so claustrophobic back here that you would worry that every time Dad put his foot down you might get a bit of the old Here's the conundrum. In a good year, Porsche sells about 100,000 cars. Last year, the boys in Norfolk sold 2,200, and their development budget for the Evora was probably what Porsche spends on toilet paper. In some of the details that shows, but this is still a proper Lotus, and the more I drive it, the more I like it. Is it easier to live with than an Exige or an Lease? Well, yes. Is it as polished as a Porsche? Well, no. But is it better to drive than a Cayman S? Well, absolutely. And that is a stunning achievement.